Got debt? Spendebt is a tool that helps you pay off debt every time you swipe your debit card. Take control of your financial future in 3 easy steps. Visit Spendebt.com to link your bank and debt accounts. Set your micropayment amount to be added to each debit transaction and start spending. As you make everyday purchases, micropayments will automatically be sent to your Spendebt account and paid to your debt account at the end of the month. These aren't roundup payments. These are micropayment amounts you set. Pay off debt every time you swipe. Try Spendebt free for 30 days by visiting Spendebt.com or downloading the Spendebt app.
Welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast.
The building. And an interception, and you're not down by 10 anymore. Andre Hal, his second interception.
To get you the information that you need to start your own business and do your own thing.
And I felt like it gave me a good perspective.
I was not the first person to go through what I went through.
Welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Pope, a.k.a. The Pod Disciple.
I'm your co-host, Andre Hal.
Man, and we're excited. Long overdue. However, we have our first female guest, Miami and Northwestern alum, University of South Florida alum, doctorate in sports management, founder of Female Athletes Rock, Big East Scholar athlete. We're so excited and pleased to welcome to the podcast, Dr. Jazmine Highsmith. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I've listened to several of your episodes, and the stories from everybody are always great. So I'm hoping I can live up to the hype.
Absolutely. Again, I've been a fan for a long time, and I've kind of followed a lot of the stuff that you've been doing. So I was excited to even have the opportunity to put you on a podcast and just tell your story. Because again, I'm sure there are so many individuals and so many younger people behind that can learn from your story. So with that being said,
I'm honored.
Absolutely. So again, we just want to go beyond the hype. We want to go beyond just what people may see on the surface and be able to give them a little bit more of an in-depth journey, behind your success, So we usually we just kick it off. We dive right into it just by letting us know where you're from. Tell us a little bit about you, your family, and what it was like growing up there.
Okay. All right. So I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, in a section called Brown Sub. My family's from there. That's where I grew up. Most people who recognize my last name pretty much know who my dad is. My dad is Alonzo Highsmith, University of Miami running back, third round NFL draft pick in the 1987 draft. So when people see my last name, they're like, Highsmith. Yeah, but I grew up in Liberty City. So growing up in Liberty City, there's several challenges. My mom did send me to school outside of the area for a very long time. But it was in middle school when I begged her, like, can I please go to the school down the street from the house? And she was like, okay. So I went to Brownsville Middle School, and then I followed up and went to Northwestern. And, Liberty City is a place, if you can make it out of there, you can make it out of anywhere. Tons of stuff we wasn't supposed to see growing up, but we saw anyway. But I feel like those experiences did help with my character development. I always tell people, like, I'm book smart and I'm street smart too. So don't nothing too much get past me. Yes, best of both worlds.
Can you tell us about your first involvement with sports?
I actually didn't get involved with sports until I was 14. I was going to high school, and I was 5 feet 10 inches tall, and I didn't realize like that was like a big thing. I grew up, you hear everybody talking about my dad, but I had never actually saw my dad play football because he was done with college ball by the time I was born. And he retired in 92, so I wasn't in the sports yet. But when I got to high school, my track and field coach pulled me out the hallway and was like, come join my track team. And I was like, no, absolutely not. That's not what I plan to do. It's not what I wanted to do, but I'm so thankful for that because it kind of like, it got me involved in sports, but it also helped hone my passion for sports. Like, I've always been a sports fan, but my involvement in sports pretty much helped develop that passion.
I mean, again, you just mentioned Coach Carmen Jackson, legendary coach at
Yes.
Miami Northwestern Senior High School. I mean, very dear to my heart, and just an individual that is just, I mean, she is who she is, right? I mean,
She's
straight.
amazing.
And just kind of just hearing the story about the fact that you didn't think that that you had no intentions of getting into sports. For her to see, and she's done it a number of times with Olympic medalists, Breonna Rollins. Like, there's a number of different individuals she just saw something in and brought them out to the track. So can you kind of talk a little bit about just what she means to you and just
Oh yeah,
what she was able to
absolutely.
do?
Miss Carmen is my lifesaver. Like I really wanted at 14, you really have no idea of what you want in life, but you have a plan. And I had a plan at 14, and that plan was completely like derailed. And it was like God sent. Miss Carmen is everything. I love that woman to death. I owe her so much of who I am, just even the things that even as I became an adult and things I remember what she told us. And I'm like, dang, Miss Carmen said that in 2003. It's
Absolutely.
2020, and I'm still applying that to my life. So Miss Carmen was she's the reason for me even getting involved in sports. She told me when I came out, she said, "You're going to go to school on a scholarship." And I was like, no, I'm not worried about that. I'm doing this for fun. And sure enough, with only 4 years of me competing, I was on track to get a track and field scholarship. And in track and field, most people start at a very young age. So my peers were way ahead of me by the time I got to high school. So they had been competing. They were 8 and 9. And here I am just 14, just learning everything. And then I ended up with a scholarship. So I'm happy Miss Carmen saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
What type of success you had in high school as an individual and as a team?
Miami Northwestern, I always tell people we are more than a team. We're a program. We actually won the state championship my senior year. That's the only one we really count, because 3 years prior to that, we were state runner-ups. But we won my senior year. I was an all-county athlete, all-state athlete. And just, I always tell people, like, I wouldn't say that I was the absolute best, but I made an impact on the team.
I'll agree with that, because we were teammates in my senior year in 2003, which we were supposed to sweep it. We were supposed to win both boys and the girls championship. Like you said, y'all, the girls was runner up, but we won. So I know how that felt and what that did for me my senior year. So let's talk about how, again, how that combinated into the success you had, and then also about the recruiting process. By having so much success and winning, how did your recruiting process go?
So us winning the state championship was like a goal of ours. As long as I've been a part of Miss Carmen's track team, that's her only goal. She don't care about nothing else. She don't care about the meets in between. It's the state championship. So every year we went into the season with the expectancy of winning the state championship. When we finally won our senior year, it was just like a dream come true, because now you're a part of history. I'm one of 13 state championships under her belt. So that part, just being a part of that history for her. And then after we won, that kind of just, like, anything is possible. As long as, like, that was the first time I actually saw like the product of hard work. Like, I can remember the work I put in from the day state championship my junior year ended until the state championship my senior year. And it's just a reminder that there are no days off. You have to work towards it every day. And the recruiting process for me started out kind of slow, because with the throws is different than the sprints. There's not a whole lot of money in the throws in track and field. And so basically, like, some schools, they have so many throwers, they don't have enough money, or, so that in the waiting game, just trying to figure out, like, I told somebody recently, I was a late signer. I signed after graduate, like after the state championship happened, a week before I graduated from Northwestern, I signed my scholarship. So that process for me, it was just a waiting game, just trying to see who had the most money, who could give me the most money. And for me, where location-wise, I didn't want to go too far away from my family.
Mm-hmm.
So Tampa was pretty much close, and I didn't want to stay home. So it was home or go away. And so Tampa was close enough to where I could get away from home and still have that big city feel. Because if you ever been to Tampa, Tampa's like big city, but it's really small, but it has a big city feel. So that was one of the reasons why I went to Tampa.
So once you got on campus as a freshman, what was the biggest difference from high school to college? And what you noticed?
So I immediately noticed like there's no hand holding. That's the first thing you notice when you get on campus. Like you get there and they give you the syllabus. I'm like, okay, figure it out for yourself. And one good thing about being an athlete was having the Student Success Center on campus for us to help us kind of organize that life. You go from like having your mom wake you up every day to get ready for school to like, you need to set an alarm and be at 6 a.m. practice. Like, what, 6 a.m.? So I got to get up before 6 a.m. to get there, right? So yeah, so that was one big adjustment, and just trying to adjust, like being a student athlete in high school and is different from being a student athlete in college. It's a greater responsibility with it, along with just trying to still be a student and then have a regular life too. Right. Like I always feel like it's impossible because something's gonna lack. Right. Either you want to be a student 100%, or you gonna be an athlete 100%, or you just gonna be a traditional college student 100%. Like you can't. Trying to find balance in that is hard. So that was definitely a struggle for me in the first semester.
Absolutely. And I like to ask guys or our guests, when did they first realize that sports was a business? In some cases, they go through the recruiting process and they see all these different things. So can you speak on you really realizing the business of sports when it first clicked for you?
I think when I got to college, the first thing my coaches made mention of, like, you guys are an investment. And so I'm like, investment? Like, we're human capital, basically. And so it hit me then, like, okay, yeah, this is bigger than, like, this is not hometown, this is not Northwestern, this is way bigger. And we're a smaller school and we were in the Big East at the time, but it was about who can get the conference for us, like what can you do for us? Mm-hmm. And that was the big wake up call, like, okay, yeah, this is not Northwestern no more. This is a new ball game. Like, your scholarship is riding on this.
Absolutely.
Cool. I want to talk about your stance on college athletes getting paid or not.
Oh yeah. So I actually did my dissertation on pay for play and how it could transform collegiate athletics. I am pro pay for play just because I know for a fact the trials that athletes experience while in college not being able to work. Mm-hmm. I've met people that had to work overnight to try to do it. But again, that's that, like, I can't be full student athlete and then try to, like, this is a job. This is basically a job for me. How can I still work and still maintain my grades and maintain my development on the field and off the field? So I definitely believe student athletes should get paid. Of course, that comes into play, if it should be revenue generating sports, non-revenue generating sports, because of course on most campuses only football and basketball generate the revenue for all athletic teams. But I believe there's a way that we can systematically still pay student athletes what they're worth and for their time, because it's hard. It's hard being a student athlete. I've had classmates, like, they can't get home on breaks. Mm-hmm. No extra money for lunch. I need gas. People have kids, and that, even though it's not uncommon to meet somebody, a college athlete that has kids, just like you would meet a traditional athlete, a traditional student on campus that has kids. Somebody got to pay for it. So I think they definitely should be paid.
Got my vote on that as well. I know, again, just the struggles of student athletes, and again, we're not able to do that which a traditional student can. So they can be a full-time student. They can go get a job. They can network. They can, all these different things that allows them just kind of to be better prepared for, that transition out. Meanwhile, athletes are very limited. So
absolutely.
But as we know, we speaking on should they be paid or not, but most major college football programs, the coaches are making millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars. Meanwhile, athletes are barely able to maybe go get a nice dinner after a game. And now we're talking about even more so female coaches in women's sports, right? They don't even make, as far as the pie makeup of how money is spent.
Right.
Kind of talk about a little bit about that and just, female coaches or women's sports and the limited resources that they're even provided.
Yes. So I always look at the basketball and football coaches' salaries. I'm like, oh my God, y'all had that much to spend? Oh, the budgets are crazy. And the bigger the conference and the more incentives they get so many incentives for going to conference championships and winning games and stuff, winning those big games. So it's almost like, okay, so they're rewarded. So how are we rewarded? A meal, a goodie bag at the end of a tournament or whatever the case is. So all of that is taken into consideration. And then you look at the women, and you have people like Dawn Staley, who has dominated basketball, has come in up through the ranks. Basically, she's an Olympian. And she's not making nowhere near the amount that the men's basketball coaches are making. It's a little discouraging because then you have other women that want to get into coaching and stuff like that. And it's like, I got to go through all this just to get half of what they get. It's not fair. And so there definitely needs to be some reform, especially with adding more women in coaching and more women of color as well.
Right. And I would say even so on the men's sporting side of it too. So like female basketball, women basketball coaching on men basketball staffs, football. I mean, they're just so different, just the limitations that they kind of, that they're restricted to. And then on top of that, like I said, resources are very restricted. But I know we're speaking about just your thoughts on college athletes and pay and all these different things. But I want you to mention or to speak on just the number of family members that you've had to go to college on athletic scholarships.
Yeah. So I'm one of my dad's 5 kids, and all 5 of us went to college on athletic scholarships. So I went to University of South Florida. I had a brother that went to Arkansas. He actually went to junior college first. He went to Phoenix College first, then he went to Arkansas. Had a brother that went to the University of Buffalo. My sister started out at Oklahoma State in track and field, and then she ended at Stanford University. And then my brother, one of my last brother went to the University of Miami. So 5 of us, he sent all 5 of us to college, and that's his claim to fame.
So you got a wealth of knowledge on athletes in college. So
yes.
So we both know you got a bunch of honors in college during your college career. Can you speak on what it meant for you to be a Big East Scholar athlete?
Right. So Big East Scholar athlete is basically given to athletes who maintain their GPA through semester. And I actually was a Big East Scholar athlete a couple times. And to me, it means that I can do the work and play the game as well. That's people have this preconceived notion about student athletes, and I ran into professors who basically like, oh, athletes get away with this, they do this, and basically that just says like we're more than just athletes. So that was a big one for me.
Dre went to Vanderbilt, and just kind of being, even when I got into the NFL and working in the NFL, I would come across, or we would sit in meetings and talk about these educated athletes. And a lot of times, in most cases, it was even looked down upon. Like, how focused would he be in sports because he's got interest in whatever, it could be biochemistry or whatever it is. But it's like what, you kind of talk bad about the guys who don't take education serious. Right. The people that do, you still kind of find a way to to talk about that and its limitations. So it's just really, I think the mindset and the thought processes of what they think athletes are.
Yeah.
They can be. Like that's
that. And I think because we don't really focus on other passions. When you see a kid interested in sports, we pretty much only push them to sports. That's the only thing we push them to. And I keep telling people, like, y'all, sports is the foundation. That's just, it lays the foundation. It teaches leadership, character development, like mental, physical strength. But that's not the end all and be all. At some point, sports has to end. And if you have your identity wrapped in sports, once you leave sports, you don't know nothing else. So you're going to be like struggling, trying to find something else you like. So I think it's important at an early age, like, hey, this is sports. This is what sports can do for you. But you also need to look into other passions, other hobbies, like be smart. There's nothing wrong with being smart. In fact, I tell kids all the time, like, again, you're an investment to a program. Why would I invest my money into you if you can't stay academically eligible to compete for me?
Absolutely. And Drea, if you want to speak to this, I know Drea is involved in some programs that are helping college kids, but he has an experience just in general with that being focused only on sports.
Yeah, definitely, man. Just being in the NFL, and like you said, like people would tease me for that. Like, you so smart, you too smart, Dre. You too smart. Like that. You tease me for being smart. Like I was getting teased for being smart. Because with the Vanderbilt, they didn't like. It just they didn't care. They didn't like that. They didn't like somebody being smart, like using their mind other than football. And that's why I was different from them. I was just different. Like I wasn't like better or smarter than nobody. I was just different. Like I just thought different, like than a normal football player. And it's kind of sad to see that I was getting teased for being smart. Like that shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be like that at all.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It happens. You see it all the time. Like, I think because there's that in football, they just pretty much like, you have to be this way. They put you in a box. And if you anything outside of that box, you're a threat to them. Because you see now with everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter, and as we see players begin to speak out, you're like, who told you to say that?
Yep. So it's interesting, but I'm glad to see that we're making progress, and I think that a lot of things are going to be impacted by athletes. So.
Yes.
But after an accomplished career at USF, tell us your journey after that. Did you go right into working? And if so, how was that adjustment?
Sure. So I went into work, but again, sports, I had only started competing at 14. So for 8 years, track and field had been my life. So I wanted to and sports is a passion of mine. So I wanted to still be involved in sports. So I coached for a while. I got my MBA in sports business, and then I ended up getting the doctorate in sports management. And so my end goal is to be an athletic director. I want to get on campus, and I want to interact with these athletes, and I want to prepare them for life after the sport. That's my main focus. I don't think too many people are focusing on preparing athletes for life after the sport, because everybody in college sports is not going to go pro.
Right.
And kids that look like us, we don't get to graduate and go home to businesses and where somebody can just put us in a position. So we have to fight and we have to network. And I don't think they're giving athletes that opportunity now.
Like you said earlier, after I retired, I didn't know what to do. Like I'm like, bro, what to do? Like I had no idea like what to do in the workplace, like what to do like with my life. I'm like, man, what to do? But I started working with this organization called Make a Play Foundation, and they help kids, they help college kids that that's not go to the NFL or the NBA or any other professional sport. So we help them try to get them in the workforce, like like I said, like network, just stuff like that. Network, help them like just get better skills, like life skills.
Right.
And do you feel most athletes are prepared for this transition?
I don't. But I also don't think we realize that we have so many transferable skills from being an athlete that can be used in the workplace. Like I'm naturally a leader, and I can't help. I know I improved that throughout my years of competition. Like I'm naturally a leader, and that's just something that I can do easily. It's not forced. It just happens. People listen to me, but we don't really understand that those transferable skills can be used in the workplace. Like working well on a team, you only get that from teamwork. Like being a part of a team and working towards a common goal. People don't even realize that that's a skill. And then I know for sure I've met a lot of employers that, like, as soon as they find out you're an athlete, they're like, oh my God, I need you, because they already know what we possess mentally, physically, in leadership, all those skills. Oh, it's raining out. All those skills that pretty much make a great worker. So I don't think the colleges are doing a great job training preparing our athletes for this, because I remember when I left college, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I don't have to work out no more. Nobody's telling me to be this place at a certain time. So it's a transition that you have to get used to, but I don't think they're quite preparing them for it yet.
I agree with you, especially with athletes being able, because again, we're in pressure-packed situations all the time. So we know how to deal with pressure, know how to deal with stress. So a lot of things that I learned when I was navigating the corporate side of even sports, that you see, because a lot of people that are in the front office or whatever, a lot of them didn't really play sports, so they don't really have like teammates. They don't know how to interact with people. It's really a interesting
It's
situation.
weird.
It's interesting. So the fact that, like you said, that we're able to adjust and be within a team and work well within a team, I think those are things that we need to highlight and identify, and just be able to allow athletes to know that coming out of college, that these are, some of your best some qualifications that you have that can transfer well into the working force. But like I said, I stated that you got some secondary degrees, the PhD, and you mentioned being an athletic director, kind of because if we can just talk about the PhD process, because that, only the strong really survive with that, right? That's not an easy process. Can you talk about just your experience with that?
Yeah, it was a very long process. I started my doctorate degree in 2012. Right after I finished my master's degree, I started the doctorate, and I pretty much worked through the coursework, and you get through the coursework, and then the last two components of the degree are the comp exams and the dissertation. And I took the comp exams the first time, and I failed 2 parts of 4. And I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this no more. And I was like, I'm done with school. I'm tired. Like, I've been a career student all my life. I'm done. So I took a break. I took like a 2-year break, and then I finally decided, let me just go back and finish up what I started. And the dissertation process was an even longer process, because basically, like, everything you want to say, you have somebody that has never been an athlete. I'm an athlete, so I'm writing my dissertation as an athlete, and I have somebody telling me, no, that's not possible. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not possible? So it was a long process, but I defended my dissertation in November 2019. And like you said, only the strong survive. It's a mental game at that point. Like, do I really want to keep doing this? Like, what's the reward at the end? But I'm the first doctor in my family, and basically I'm ready to move forward in my career, and I want to touch these athletes in any way possible, just letting them know, like, hey, y'all not alone, because there's so many of us out here. Once we leave the sport, we don't know what else there is to do.
Absolutely. Congratulations again on that.
Thank you.
Definitely. And you're the founder of Female Athletes Rock, aka FAR. Can you talk about what led you to starting that platform and what you hope to accomplish?
So I created Female Athletes Rock in 2013. At the time, I was in my doctorate program, but I was also coaching high school track and field. And I kind of realized, like, my high school athletes didn't have anybody to look up to. And this is like the emergence of like social media, like Instagram at this time. Instagram was the new hot ticket item. And I would scroll through Instagram. I'm like, they don't have anything positive to look at as far as being an athlete. And unless you are on TV, and, we only see Serena. They barely show WNBA games. And then we get the Olympics every 4 years. So there was nothing. So I created Female Athletes Rock as a way to empower and inspire female athletes, as well as celebrate female athletes. Because again, unless you're a big name, nobody really knows about you and what you've accomplished or your story. So that's why Female Athletes Rock was created, to share those stories and also just give young girls in sports positive people to look up to.
I think, like I said, it's such a big discrepancy, or just even with pay of, even when you talk about maybe female male track guys and female track athletes, if you're not kind of one of the top of the top, you know, you really just are. I mean, a lot of them are living from training to being a substitute teacher to just like making ends meet to survive until they, you know, again, getting ready for the next Olympic year. So it's a lot that that females, or that, you know, the individuals in that sport have to endure. So what advice would you have for a young lady that might be just kind of dealing with some of the limitations of what being put on her as a female athlete, and just all that you have experienced and know? What type of advice would you give her?
My advice would be to stay focused, and then, you know, be resilient, you know, be able to bounce back, because you are going to experience everything. Be resilient, and just always be thankful as well, because in that process you're going to experience so many things. You're going to try to understand why, how, but just be thankful that it happened, because it's setting you up for something greater.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I have for you. Dre, you got any additional questions?
I just want to say thank you for being on the show. Your story is really positive. I really love the story. I'm glad what you're doing with these young kids, man. They really need it.
Thank you both for having me. I'm excited. Thank you, Jeff, for reaching out to me. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my story.
No problem. Do you want to be able to maybe put the information out where maybe they can find your
Yeah, absolutely. So we're located on the internet. You can go to www.femaleathletesrock.org. And then we're on Instagram, Female Athletes Rock, and we're on Twitter at 4FemaleAthletes.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Another episode by another amazing guest. We're so honored to have Dr. Jazmine Highsmith on the podcast. We'll be supporting you, following you, and anything that you have going on. We're definitely going to stay involved and connected with you. So we appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you again. I really appreciate y'all both.
Absolutely.